This week I'm bringing to you 7 dinners with a protein, starch, and vegetables. I hope you get inspired by this video. For this meal, we are doing a steak stir fry. I'm using this cap loin for my protein, as well as some mushrooms and some onion, some celery and carrots for my vegetables. And for my grain, I am using some rice. And so I'm just starting off by seasoning up my rice with some paprika and some garlic powder. And then I'm going to go in with some cracked black pepper, as well as some pink salt. And then I'm going to add some oil and just mix all of that together. And then add some water. I think I added maybe 2 cups of water there. Now I'm just cutting up my loin and I am going to season it. I have this Kinder's lemon pepper seasoning. The seasoning clumps up, so I had to crush it between my fingers in order to get it to do its thing. And here is some ground ginger and some garlic powder that I'm adding, as well as a little bit of cayenne pepper. And I'm also going to add some cracked black pepper and some pink salt. And now I'm just massaging it in to make sure that everything is seasoned well. I heated up my skillet and I added some grapeseed oil. Now I'm just adding in my steak. And I'm actually going to saute this just for a little bit. I'm not going to cook it all the way. I'm just going to put it on the plate here and set it to the side. And then I'm going to start cutting up my vegetables for the stir fry. I'm just dicing it into small pieces. There's the carrot, and here's the celery that I'm cutting up. Next is the mushrooms, and I like to cut them up finely. And also I am cutting up some onion. I didn't use the entire onion. It was half of a medium onion. Now I'm just adding some oil to that pan. And then I'm going to add in all of those vegetables. I'm going to save the mushrooms for last. I'm going to saute the onion, carrots, and celery, and then add in those mushrooms. Now I'm just going in with those exact same seasonings that I used to season up my steak. I wanted everything to be flavorful throughout the entire dish. Now I'm just stirring it all up together just to make sure that it gets incorporated well, and adding my steak back in. And then I'm just going to allow that to cook for a little while. And I'm adding some water. And then I am going to cover it for about 5 minutes just to allow that steak to cook. Now I'm going to create a sauce by using these coconut aminos. And then I'm going to also use some honey. This is the last bit of my honey. And I am going to stir all of that in. And then I'm going to cover it. In the meantime, my rice is complete. And so is my stir fry. And I'm serving it up here in a bowl. It was so delicious, y'all. Now, the next morning, I took out some beans that I soaked overnight and rinsed them off and added them to my Instant Pot. I added some oil, and then also I added in some garlic powder, and I'm also going to add in some chili powder, and then I'm going to add in some ground cumin. Oh, actually this is paprika, so I add the paprika first. And now I'm going to add in the ground cumin. I wanted to kind of give it like a little bit of a chili flavor with those seasonings. And then I'm adding oregano. I really love adding oregano to my beans. These are pinto beans, by the way. But yeah, I really love adding oregano to my beans. Now here's some cracked black pepper that I'm adding. And I'm also going in with my pink salt just to flavor it all up. Now, the last element to these beans is, drumroll, a ham bone. So this is my ham bone from Christmas, and I'm like, we are using it up today. And so I added it to my Instant Pot with some water, and I'm putting it on the slow cook function for 8 hours. In the meantime, as the beans are cooking, I'm going to make some cornbread. That was a request from my husband. And so there's some cornmeal, some flour, some sugar. I think it was a cup of cornmeal, a cup of flour, 1/4 cup of sugar. And then I added in 2 teaspoons of baking powder. And I also added in 1 teaspoon of salt to the mix. And then I just stirred all of that together. And then instead of 2 eggs, I'm just going to add 1 egg because we were running low on eggs. But it all worked out fine. And then I'm adding in my milk. I believe that was a cup of milk and then 1/2 cup of oil. Or you could use butter. And then I'm just going to stir all of that together. I had a cast iron skillet heating up in my oven. And so I'm just going to take that out. I always like to do this and then add some melted butter to my cast iron. Oh my gosh, it gives it the best flavor and it makes the edges crispier. And so I'm just pouring this right into my cast iron. And then I'm adding it to my oven. I just followed the recipe off of the back of my cornmeal packet. And so that's going to cook for 25 minutes. Now for the vegetable part of this meal, I am cutting up 2 cucumbers. And then I'm going to also slice some grape tomatoes in half. And then I am going to cut up 1/4 of an onion. And I'm going to add that to a bowl. And then I'm adding some yogurt. I'm adding I think it was about 3 spoonfuls of yogurt. And then I'm going to add some red wine vinegar to that. I'm just making a salad dressing with these things. I'm adding some garlic powder. And I'm just adding it to taste. I'm not even measuring. I have a little bit of dill left over, so I'm adding some dill. And then I am going to also add in some cilantro, some dried cilantro, as well as some cracked black pepper. And then I'm going to top it all off with some pink salt and stir all of that together. So I have my beans for my protein, my beans and ham for my protein. I have this yummy salad for my vegetables. And then the grains, I have some rice that's left over. And then the cornbread was a bonus. I was not going to make it, but my husband requested it. So of course, I had to make some nice golden cornbread. I'm just going to add a little bit of butter on top of it because why not, right? Because butter makes everything better. And here is the final dish. You guys, this meal was so good. I was like, yes, yes, and yes, some more. All right, so for this night, my husband, he requested tacos. So I started off by cutting up my vegetables. I have some romaine lettuce that I am dicing very finely. And then I started cutting up this tomato, and then I realized it was not good. So I grabbed these grape tomatoes instead, and I started chopping these up. And then I also started chopping up my onion. And you guys, I remember that I had one little pepper left on my serrano pepper plant. So I am chopping that up and removing the seeds to remove some of that heat. Next up, I am making some corn tortillas using 1 cup of masa flour and 1 cup of water and just stirring that together. And then I'm just going to add some of that masa flour onto my cutting board and just begin kneading the mixture together. And then I'm going to cut it up into 10 pieces and create my balls for my tortillas. Now, you can either use a rolling pin to make your tortillas. Make sure that there is flour underneath it and on your rolling pin. Or either use a heavy skillet or book to smash your tortillas. Now, make sure you have it covered with plastic wrap. Now, I'm just oiling my griddle here, and I'm going to cook these tortillas right here on my griddle. I really love this little center griddle console on my oven. I think it's really neat. I can cook so many different things. Now I'm going to take my taco shells and put them in the oven at 375 degrees for 5 minutes. In the meantime, I am going to season my ground beef. I don't use those taco packets to season my ground beef. I just make my own taco seasoning. I'm using ground cumin. I'm using some paprika here, as well as some chili powder. I don't do a lot of measuring, you guys. I just kind of go by feel. And then I'm adding in some garlic powder, as well as some cilantro. And I'm also going to add in some cayenne pepper, just a little bit of that, maybe 1/8 of a teaspoon, some cracked black pepper, and lastly, my pink salt. And then I'm just going to take my masher and mash that all up. I love this thing, you guys. It works for so many different things. Now I'm just going back in with those exact same seasonings because I want it to be very flavorful. All right, I'm just gonna add in some water, just like you would if you had one of those taco packets, and just stir all of that together. Now here is our meal. We have our corn tortillas, as well as our taco shells for our grain, our ground beef for our protein, lettuce, tomato, onion, and pepper for our vegetables. Now you guys, this next meal is another easy one. I am using some pork loin that I diced up, as well as some mushrooms, onion, some mixed vegetables, and leftover rice from the night before. And then I'm using ground ginger, pepper, and salt, amino acids, and some maple syrup. Now I'm cutting up all of those mushrooms, and again, I like to dice them up. And then I'm cutting up my onion. I'm just using the rest of the onion from the night before. And then I'm going to go in with some oil and oil my pan. I like this little oil sprayer. It helps to get things done evenly. Now I'm just adding my onion and my mushroom, and I'm just stirring all of that together. Next up, I'm adding in my frozen mixed vegetables. I'm going to give that a stir, and then I'm going in with those seasonings, that ground ginger, and then I'm adding in some cracked black pepper, as well as some salt. I'm keeping the seasonings very simple today. The ginger is going to be the star. Now I'm just going to stir all of that together, and then I am going to add in some water. I added about maybe a half of a cup of water to this, and stir that, and then I'm going to cover it and allow it to sit there and cook for about 5 minutes. Now I'm going in and seasoning my pork loin with those exact same seasonings, the ground ginger, cracked black pepper, and my pink salt. I'm going to stir all of that together to get those seasonings incorporated. And now that my vegetables are pretty much done, I'm going to add my pork loin to my skillet and just begin stirring it around. And now I'm just going to cover it and allow it to sit for about 5 minutes, and then come in with those coconut aminos. And then I'm going to add the last little bit of my bourbon maple syrup. You guys, that hurt my feelings that it was gone. It was so good. All right, you guys, I'm just making sure that everything is incorporated well and getting that last drop of syrup. Now here we go. Our pork loin stir fry is done. We have our rice for our grains, the pork for our protein, and those mixed vegetables. Now this next meal is going to be a meatloaf. So I have some brisket. I bought a big brisket from Costco, and I like cutting it up into smaller pieces and grinding it into ground beef. And so I just use my Ninja blender to do that. Yes, you can use your blender to grind up meat. This is how it looks once it's done grinding. I go through 2 cycles of that. And so I'm just adding these breadcrumbs as well as 1 egg. I'm also adding in some ground garlic powder, some paprika. I'm adding in some cracked black pepper as well as some pink salt to season up my meatloaf. I then go in with some liquid aminos. I use this instead of Worcestershire sauce. And then I'm going in with some ketchup and just mixing all of that together. Now I'm just making sure that it's formed nicely, and it's going into my oven at 350 degrees for 35 minutes. Now I'm just chopping up some potatoes because we are making mashed potatoes tonight, adding it to water and a little bit of salt. And now I am going to cook up my frozen broccoli. I'm using cracked black pepper, some garlic powder, as well as some pink salt. I'm going to add about 1/4 cup of water to the bottom of that. And then I'm just going to cover it and allow it to cook really low. And then I come in and stir it in to make sure the seasonings get all over the broccoli. Now I'm making my sauce for my meatloaf. I'm adding ketchup, some more liquid aminos. I'm also adding this last little inch of honey, y'all. I was struggling to get it out. I was like, but I'm going to make it work. And then I'm going to add in a little bit of Louisiana hot sauce just to give it a little tiny spice, and just mix all of that together. And then I'm just going to pour that on my meatloaf. And then I'm going to use my little brush, and I'm going to make sure that that sauce gets on every inch of that meatloaf. Here are my potatoes. They're done. I drained all of the water. Make sure you drain all of the water so that they are not gummy. I added in some butter, some cracked black pepper, and some salt, and I'm just using this masher to mash them up. I don't even bother getting out my mixer because this works fine. Now I'm going in with some raw milk and stirring it. And then I realized I needed some more milk, so I'm stirring it until it's creamy. Now here is the final product. My meatloaf is the protein, my mashed potatoes are the starch, and broccoli is the vegetable. Now for this meal, I am making some fish. I have Brussels sprouts, celery, carrots, onion for my vegetables, and potatoes. Of course they're vegetables, but they're being used as the starch on this night. I am just dicing these potatoes up, and I am going to roast them in my cast iron oven. And I'm adding some oil to them, and then I am going to season them well with some garlic powder as well as some paprika. And then I'm going to go in with some cracked black pepper. And then I'm just going to finish it off with my pink salt. Now that it's seasoned, I am going to mix all of that around just to make sure that every piece gets some seasoning on it. Now it's going into my oven at 375 degrees. I'm gonna cook it for 25 minutes and then I'll come back and stir it. Now I'm just chopping up my celery here to begin my salad. And then I'm going to cut and dice up my carrots as well. I cut off the ends. They are a little bitter to me. And then I will chop those carrots up and add them to my bowl. And I'm checking on my potatoes and just mixing them around to kind of make sure they get roasted evenly. Now I'm going in with my Brussels sprouts and just cutting the ends of them off. I'm going to cut them in half and then begin dicing them. I'm kind of making it into a slaw using my Brussels sprouts instead of cabbage. Alrighty, now it is time to chop up this onion. I didn't use the whole onion. I probably used about a third of what you saw there. And so I'm making a dressing by adding the last little bit of my mayonnaise. Can you tell that I need to go grocery shopping? And then I'm doing maple syrup and some red wine vinegar. And I'm adding a little bit of salt and a little bit of cracked pepper. And I'm just going to mix all of that together to make kind of a slaw. Now I'm going in with some garlic powder to season up my fish fillets. This is flounder fish, by the way. I did not know I liked flounder until recently, and this is like my new favorite fish. So now I'm using cracked black pepper and salt, and I'm just gonna flip it, and I'm going to season the other side of my fish. Now I'm oiling my griddle with some bacon fat from bacon I cooked this morning, and I'm going to lay my fish on the griddle to cook. I probably cooked each side about 5 minutes at the most. It didn't take long at all for this fish to cook up. Now I am serving it up, you guys. My fish is the protein, my starch are the potatoes, and then that coleslaw salad is my vegetable. Alrighty, you guys, this is the final meal. I'm using some turkey and some mixed frozen vegetables and some rice. I found that turkey on sale, you guys, and I cut that bad boy up and put it into separate bags. So I'm adding my turkey to my Instant Pot with about a half a cup of water. And then I'm going in with some rub sage. I was thinking about Thanksgiving, I'm not gonna lie, so that's why I did the rub sage. And then I am also going to season it with some cracked black pepper. For this, I kept the seasonings very simple as well. And then I added in some pink salt as my final seasoning. This is going to cook on the slow cook function for 6 hours in my Instant Pot. Now I'm going in with my rice. I'm just going to rinse it off. And then I'm going to add my rice to my pot. And I'm going to add in some of this no salt seasoning that I got from Costco. It's a really good seasoning. And then some cracked black pepper, as well as some pink salt. I'm just stirring all of that together and adding some oil. And then I'm going to add in my water. And now I'm just going to allow this to cook. Next, I'm just going to add my frozen mixed vegetables to another pot. And I'm going to add in this potato slayer seasoning that my husband bought. It was actually pretty good. I think he got it from Walmart. And then I added in some salt and some water and just covered it and allowed it to cook. Now my turkey is done. It's been cooking all day long. I didn't really have to do much to it. I'm just adding those juices on the top and flipping it over just to make sure the seasonings meld together. Here is my plate. I have my turkey for protein, the rice for my starch, as well as those mixed vegetables. You guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and share. God bless you. Bye.